So we got these extra small oysters from Hammer Hammer over at the Hood Canal. So typically an oyster will look like this. It can vary, it can be long, it can be round. It typically has a lid and then it has a deep end here. So this is where the oysters are. When they actually live in the ocean, they actually stand like this. They stand like in the sand, like all over. They open up and they filter. And they filter all the water that comes in with the tide, different tides. But when you get oysters, one thing you want to do that I always do, a lot of people just open them and eat them, but I'm a little more picky on them. So if you're new to oysters, I think it's very important to clean your oysters 100% so you don't get that bad experience of getting silt in your oyster when you eat it, because you don't want to have any chewy stuff. So what I do, I always like dip my oysters in water. I take a nail brush. I have a clean one because I eat a lot of oysters. I always brush downwards because we want like all the oysters to all the shell and debris and the silt. We want to get that into the bowl. Quick clean, dip, quick clean. You don't want to put your oyster in it. You just want to like dip it to get the silt off. So moving on to the opening here, I always use a towel. That's to protect my hand when I'm shucking them. I roll it up like this. So I have like a little roll here that I can put my oyster on and then hold. So what I want to do, I want to tuck this in and make sure that it's tucked in. I'll take the oyster knife and go into the hinge here. That's a hinge. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a hinge here. We want to get the oyster knife down in that. We don't want to put it straight down like this. We don't want to put it like straight in. So we want to like 45-degree angle. We want to wiggle our way in. There's a little silt sitting there and a little muscle that keeps the clam together. We want to go in there and get the knife in there. So we slowly wiggle the knife in, see? And it's actually sitting already. Slowly, and I'm not pushing, I'm not using so much pressure. And when you feel like it's sitting, you twist. Just a little twist. You don't push, you don't want your knife in. And then what I'm doing here, watch what I'm doing. I'm cleaning off my knife. I don't want the debris in. And then I just slightly lifted it. And I know, I know that the that's the muscles sitting and holding these clams together, these shells together. It's sitting always on the right side. It's always sitting on the right side. So when you open it, you go in, you go up against the lid. Slowly go through that. Make sure you don't get so much debris in it. You open the oyster that way up. And then you see, that's where the oyster is connected to the upper shell, the flat plate, and it's still connected down here. So what I do here, I loosen the oyster, make sure it's loosened, and then I pivot it. I turn it around. And if I can see there's a little silt in it, I just like tip the oyster a little and let it run out. Very important, when you open an oyster, you smell the oyster. You really want to have that smell of salt water. The way to eat an oyster is like, if it's loose like this, you actually put it to your lip, slide it out, taste it. You'll get the taste of the different seas, like here in the Hood Canal, or if they were further out. Another indication of, you can see if the oyster is fresh, they have to be heavy. And they have to sound like stone when you're pulling them together. They cannot be hollow. If they sound like hollow, I cannot even make that sound here. But if they sound hollow, they will not be good, because then they're out of water. And don't worry, if you open an oyster and it's bad, you will smell it. It smells like rotten seawater that's been standing still for 3 years. Going back to the garnishes, I will do a mignonette. It's the classic French topping for an oyster. That's a shallot, peel the shallot, and vinegar. So it can be red wine vinegar, white vinegar, what kind of vinegar you have. It can be apple cider vinegar. It could be your own vinegar if you make your own vinegar. Take an onion. You're not gonna use a whole one. Just cut it fine as you can do it. Be careful of your fingers. Hold your nails and your thumb around behind and your nails like this. You see the onion here? I'll drip it in here like that. You can save this vignette. You don't have to throw it out afterwards. You can save it for a long time because it's already vinegar, so it will just pickle those onions. I like to have like black pepper grind into it. And I'm not shy on the pepper. I want that pepper. So the next one I'm gonna show you is my version of an Asian style oyster. It will be daikon, also called horseradish. I will cut that very thinly, like in julienne, like means like very thin. I'm gonna slice this chili here so we get a little hotness to it. And I'm gonna use ponzu soya. So it marinates in a little ponzu soya. Ponzu soya is a lighter soya, but also a lightly smoked soya. It's not as strong. So what I wanna do, I peel this here. I use my peeler. Buy the smallest piece you want because you don't wanna have like a huge piece. So I always cut like a little slice like that off. It has to be crispy. Then again, I put it down, cut another piece off. You wanna have a sharp knife for it, very important. Use, again, thinly, as thin as you can cut it. You put the layers like this, you cut it really, really thin. Again, protect your hands, make sure your fingers is not getting cut. Slowly, 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 slowly. You don't have to do it as quick as I do. So what I do now is I take this here and I put it in the ice water. And I will swirl it around a little and then it will crisp up. Put that aside. So here, thinly again, cut thin, as thin as you can, see? I just make small, as thin as I can. Put your chili down here. This is my Scandinavian style. This is the dill oil we made. See how green it is? I plucked some dill and I threw it again in cold water. I want to have this crispiness all the time, like the crispiness of the freshness of the dill. I just want to have a little cream. The cucumber, cut in half. I've washed it. So what you want to do is like you puncture it through. You just make a pattern like this, and you can. I will say you can do it the day before, but I will do it like as a last thing, so we get the crispiness. So here we have the garnish for the Scandinavian one, the Asian one, and the classic ones. Ice. If you don't have ice, you can use salt. If you don't have salt, you can use aluminum foil, like see I put under here. But it's always best to serve it on ice. Back. I like to have a little of the onions, just chopped like that. Neutral with nothing. You can use a lemon. Put it on the side like that. The Tabasco is a classic one, and I like to use different things. So I use the new Tabasco with the chipotle. It tastes really good to get that little smokiness. Just a little drop of it. The daikon, fresh daikon. The 2 chilies. A little drop of the ponzu soya. Then I come to my little Scandinavian one. Just running in here. When I have a couple of drops of the dill oil. Your small cucumber. And then of course your dill. Bon appetit. Or velbekomme. That's what we say in Denmark, velbekomme.